join me as I roll through Lodge Corner at Alton Park to start a 30-minute enduro-type race in Automobilista 2. I'm driving the Porsche RSR 1974, one of my favorite cars in any sim, against a whole bunch of other classic cars, and I do mean whole bunch. There's 60 cars on the track, 59 AI, plus myself, in Automobilista 2. I saw on Reddit today somebody make a post about running 60 cars in AMS2, and remembered some conversation I saw a while back. Project Cars 2, which was run on the Madness engine, or I guess developed with the Madness engine. Some folks had figured out how to hack that sim basically to have more than the 32 cars that you can have by default. And that's also the same limit that Automobilista 2 has on some of the biggest tracks like the Nords and Spa and all of those. But somebody's actually gone and tried it in AMS2, and I figured I'd have a go myself, and it does work. I've done a little bit of racing thus far, but certainly not any kind of full race, so we'll experience a little bit together if there's any oddities with it. But this is very much not supported by Ryza or endorsed by them, I'm sure. I'm breaking something somewhere. But it is possible to do if you're very much into tinkering. It involves something you have to do every single time you want to launch a race, doing some memory editing and also some file editing. And to be honest, I'm probably not even going to do it myself that much, only for the specialist of occasions. But I want this to be something that's in the core sim, if at all possible, because it's absolutely awesome. I chose Alton Park here because, one, it's a great track, but two, we should see some lap traffic. I've got 3 different classes in this, and I'm running against 27 cars in my own class. These Porsches I'm racing against, and then also that Corvette there, which is way faster than these Porsches, so I'll see if I can keep up with them at all. We also have BMW's 2002 turbos, which are much slower, but we'll see them at some point. And they're racing against a smaller Corvette, which we'll also be able to pass. And then up front, very much up front, I threw some BMW M1s in, which I don't think we'll see the Pro car. Maybe we'll see them, but in the rearview mirror at some point. So an absolutely packed, full grid for every single class. 60 cars here at Alton Park. Should be quite interesting if we do catch some lap traffic at some point, and see if it all just falls apart. But so far so good as it really get close to that bollard there. So far so good with this. I had a lot of trouble getting it running, as you could expect, and it's very tedious to get set up. I did try a few more cars just to see if you could have 100 cars on a track, and it doesn't look like that works, or at least did not for me. But 60 seems to work pretty well. I've tried it here and at the Nords just to give it a quick go. Come up to Druid's car in front, very slow there. But 60 cars seems to work pretty well, and this brings back a lot of memories for me of racing in GTR 2, specifically Power and Glory, but also GT Legends and any of those ISI sims. One of my favorite things to do was to load up a track and throw tons of cars on it, as many as you could, and there were some versions out there of Spa and the Nürburgring where you could have over 100 cars racing. And it was so much fun, and it was kind of hard to do back in the day just with computer speeds and stuff, but more recently it's actually not super hard to do at all in those sims to go race against 120 cars or something like that. To see it working so well in a modern sim is very cool, because I can't do this in Assetto Corsa. I definitely cannot run 60 cars, maybe 40. It depends on the cars for sure, because some cars just take more processing power than others, but the AI are not nearly this good with that many cars. For all their flaws still in AMS2, it's much better AI than Assetto Corsa usually has. The car in front swerves just to prove me wrong a bit. He's trying to show me who he is so I don't get around him, but we're going to try it here down into Knickerbrook. Late on the brakes. Classic version of Alton Park, like I was saying. Really throw it in right out to the curb. So there's no chicanes going to over-under me. See, they are pretty good. No chicanes, which I very much prefer. This track has an amazing flow to it in its original layout. I can totally see why they have the chicanes these days, but I very much prefer it without them. And in sim racing, we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. without any concerns of safety, so might as well. Come through the final corner here. But yeah, you can run, it seems to not affect the performance at all. I always have it capped at 60 FPS when I'm recording, since that's what the videos are at. And I haven't seen it change at all. It's probably more taxing than it would be at a smaller grid, but it still seems to perform fine. AMS2 just always does better with the number of AI than a lot of other sims do, I've found. But yeah, I know there's a few reasons why this is not included by default. You do have some issues, so over rev a little bit there. You do have issues when you run a qualifying session with this many cars on a track this small where everybody overlaps in the garages, but the cars phase in the pit lane anyway, as we saw in some of my more recent IndyCar exploits. So with the cars phasing into each other, in and out of each other, it doesn't really matter anyway that there's overlapping stuff in the garages. Now, I don't know if pit stops work correctly. I assume they will, but it'll be kind of a mess, which we shouldn't have to do any in this race, luckily. But on a bigger track, you get more spread out anyway, so maybe it would be fine in the end. But cars will definitely occupy the same slot. You probably would have a tough time seeing your own pit stall if it came to that. So jump up the inside. Not able to do it. I got around him for a minute. Coming to Druid, get it down to second gear here maybe. This car, it drives like it looks. It's got that really wide rear end, so you're kind of sitting on those rear tires, and then the front end kind of hops around in the air. Makes for an interesting time, but it drives like a Porsche. Was there something on the track there? We'll see what happens once we catch the lapped cars here. I'm expecting on a narrow track like this, there'll be some fireworks, but I might be able to take advantage of it and pass a few more cars in my measly 24th in class right now. So the pits and the pit stops and stuff are definitely an issue, but maybe they can just add that, hey, if you go over 32 AI, I think ACC actually gives you a warning currently if you enable a lot of AI. I think it's more of a performance thing in that sim where it says, you're going to max out your processor and stuff. But even something like that, just to tell you that it's not going to work perfectly, but give us the option, I would be very welcome to. But unknown to myself and probably any others outside of Ryza, what's actually happening here with this many AI. Maybe the physics don't work correctly or something, but so far so good on all that. It all feels fine to me. Chase this Porsche here, and I see a whole bunch of cars up front. I think might be catching some of the slower traffic here. It's up the inside into Knickerbrook, really hanging in there. We'll force him to run out wide onto the grass. Thankfully backs out of it, gives me the spot as we come up to Druids then. I love this car so much. How it looks, how it drives. I'm very encouraged to feel that it drives a lot like other sims. I looked at this car when it first came out, and I didn't like as much how it drives. I looked at it comparing it to a few of the other sims out there that have the same car, because this car appears almost everywhere. And I didn't quite like it so much, but they've changed so much about this sim over the past couple of years that it doesn't drive anything like it did originally, which is kind of a shame. I know folks find some of the old videos, and I guess first impressions are important for everything, including Sims, so it's a shame that some stuff didn't work perfectly out of the box, but now it works very well and is fun to drive and feels a lot like it does in other Sims. I'm driving the Porsche right now in RBR a lot for the rally championship I'm doing, and it's a very different version of a Porsche. It's also set up completely differently to do rally, especially in the Safari configuration right now. But there's some driving characteristics that are the same with this one, and it's so cool to see. The very Porsche handling. As the car behind me got out on the grass, I don't know if that was my fault. But some of those, we'll call them Porsche driving quirks, are very much here, and love to see it. This is a great car to drive around the Nordschleife. Might be the first one I take the classic Nürburgring, but we'll see. But would love the option natively in AMS2 to be able to run this many AI, and hopefully it's one of those things where there's a few of those weird glitches and maybe give us the option to do it. I don't know. didn't really want to inspire a whole bunch of people to try to go out and figure out how to do it yourselves. And I want to talk you out of it as much as I can. But if you're really into tinkering and stuff, then I'm sure you can find the information on how to do it and figure it out. But like I said, I don't think I'll do it too much just because it is really a pain. And for most scenarios, even racing around here, 32 AI is probably enough. It's probably going to create more of a headache than not with this many. But it is so cool to do. Of the way into the race here. 35th overall, so I'm right in the middle. I don't know if the pro cars, I know they're a lot faster than we are, but I don't know if they're quite fast enough to lap us during a 30-minute race, but we'll see. I have it on accelerated time as always, so it'll get a little bit more into the afternoon as we go here. Up the gears. Two in front, slowing each other up. Gonna give me an opportunity in a minute, and I can just see up the road one of the BMW turbos coming back towards us. Oh, as I'll hit the bumper of the car in front. Very Rumos looking Porsche. Slip up the left side of him. Come into Druids around the outside. So this is going to get really interesting with these they're much slower cars, and I actually really love driving that BMW as this Porsche to my right is going to try to come back up the inside, maybe think better of it. I still ran wide there. Alright, and this is where things, like I said, get interesting. We'll split them 3 wide down the front stretch. Just be holding on for dear life, driving one of these BMWs around here. I've done some racing myself where I drove that BMW while I had these Porsches coming up behind me, and it's not fun being in the slower class. I've never been somebody to drive in the slower class, although I've wanted to, but it's so terrifying in online racing especially. With AI, I would be more inclined to do it if they can race you without hitting you. So far so good. It's getting a bit sketchy behind me, but everybody's making it through cleanly so far. Got another one right in front of me here. Oh, I absolutely love this. This is so cool. I wish it wasn't so hacky to do. It's the BMW will fade to the right there, get around him. What we really need are a few more cars in each of these classes. Like we just have the 911 that I'm racing, and the Corvette is have a whole pack of cars in front. Oh boy. But most of these classes just have 2 cars right now, and even a 3rd car would add so much to the sim. So, you know, having the Batmobile BMW CSL, this car very slow in front, being held up a bit. Should take my time through all of this, but likely going to be able to pick up a whole bunch of spots here as everybody tries to figure out their way around the BMWs. I suppose we'll say it's a classic car meeting, and everybody's being respectful not to damage each other in their fine automobiles. Alright, but head up Deer Sleep. Take the inside line again. Seems to be an easy way around. Head down to the first corner. AI splitting the slower traffic as well. All we need is a few pro cars to come up behind me, and that'll really make it interesting. So we'll head down the hill here, right up the inside. Take the long way around, but I like how they don't hit each other. They really go all over the place and don't exactly, as I hit him. I'll take care of that for the AI. There we go. They go all over the place avoiding each other, but they don't actually run into anybody, which is good. It seems like Automobilista 2 in the past few months, but especially a couple weeks, has had this resurgence suddenly, and it's all third-party based. Or I guess Ryza did release an update, but the modding scene feels like it's coming alive a little bit. We, of course, have some of the vehicle mods now. So we got one car being held up the inside. I thought he was going to jump in front of me there. So we can plan a safe pass somehow. There we go. Split the Beamer up the hill. Man. terrifying stuff. Thread the needle there. Come up to Druids on the inside, second gear. Porsche's going to try to run around the outside then. Oh, he's actually going to have a run on me here down the straight towards Lodge. Side by side, hangs it in there. It's a good fight. Now that we don't have any lap traffic around, he's actually quite quick. He was way up the road from me originally, so puts up a good fight. There we go. Sorts it out at least, but like I was saying, the modding scene in AMS2 is coming alive a bit. Vehicle mods, I took a look a while back at the VRC mods that they're coming out with. They actually came out with a second one for a Camaro, I believe, which I do want to look at some point as well. And then most recently the IndyCar mod. That has been one of the main things I've been toying around with the past week or so. So awesome. Highly recommend if you have any interest in IndyCar whatsoever that you take a look at that, because it's such a good mod, good version of the car, and a great sim for it. But prior to those cars coming out, there were other things that existed for AMS2. A lot of it was conversions, though, from some of the Project Cars sims, since it's, I guess, easier probably to port something from Project Cars 2 into AMS2. And I think there's some stuff floating around out there right now for tracks that are somewhat similar. But hopefully, at some point, somebody's able to make a track, something new and it's not converted or ripped from the other game, like we saw with the vehicles. And now that we have folks playing around with things like this to increase the car count and stuff, who knows? I hope it's just a signal that people are becoming more interested in this sim in a way that's going to bring some cool content to it, because I think ultimately having a community that makes content will only help this sim maybe give us those extra cars in these classes, or give us some extra circuits to race on, or increase some of the core functionality of the sim. We've seen how much it's been done in Assetto Corsa with custom shaders patch and everything that brings with all its various plugins. So I could only dream for something similar in this sim that I feel like as a base sim has some really interesting features that sims like Assetto Corsa still don't have. Pulls off a pretty convincing racing product sometimes. It was pretty sketchy getting through the lap traffic, but I was happy to see it mostly worked out clean. As we got one car off the track as I say that. Looks like a very broken Corvette there. So maybe the first casualty in this one. We've got about 12 minutes to go. The sun's getting much lower in the sky. I didn't think it was going to turn tonight, but it might get a bit darker here. We'll see. Love the atmospheric effects as always. Two in front are just slightly faster than me at the current pace I'm doing, but I have a feeling if we hit some more traffic, they may come back this way. Good run out. I have a little bit of a run on him down to Lodge. Fades to the right though. It's going to block the inside. Maybe fades back out. Kept it in second there that time. Might grab first through Lodge on future laps. And I've mentioned to some that I did end up upgrading to a DD wheel in the past week. Finally got an order in from Fanatec that put out quite a while ago. I've been back ordered for forever, and I'm so deep into the Fanatec ecosystem now with different wheel rims and stuff that it made sense. I've never had any issues with their products, and I do like their offering, but the main issue for a while has just been that there's nothing in stock. So finally I've been able to get my hands on one, and I'm loving it so far. It's been a pretty easy transition. I did the transition from the G27 to the CSL Elite a couple years ago, and that was a big upgrade. It was very, very different feeling and took me quite a while to get used to it. Part of that also was moving from a desk to a rig, and that wheel, even in a belt-driven wheel form, just being much more suited to a rig than a desk that I was so used to with the G27, so I know that helped a lot. But the change from the CSL to the DD, I wasn't expecting anything super crazy. Ooh, I'll sneak it in here. Went for the wrong gear though. On a bit deep, but it actually helped me out. Maybe I've got a bit more grip there than I'm thinking. Get in front of him though. I'll block the inside this time. Alright, come down to Lodge. Put it in first gear this time, right on the inside. Making sure he doesn't sneak around me. I think we're catching one of the slower Corvettes. Still fairly quick. It's actually a pretty good multi-class pairing with this Porsche and that Corvette because it's not such a dramatic speed difference. Down to the first corner, car still looking up the inside. There we go. Ride the edge of grip on the way out. Sneak up the left side of him. He didn't like that. Down to second gear as the sun's getting lower. It might get into our eyes towards the end of this one. But not such a dramatic difference, which I wasn't expecting, like I said. But it's been a really nice transition to it. It only took me probably a couple hours to get comfortable enough with it. And I might make a video review or something. There's so many folks out there that do really good hardware reviews that I don't think I have too much to add to that, but maybe I can talk about it more in racing classic cars or older sims. I was able to try it out with Grand Prix Legends, and everything works just as expected, but of course some tweaking of settings and all that, like you would expect. But yeah, liking it so far, and I'm definitely noticing a bit of a difference the more I use it, in a very positive way. As I got around one of the slower Corvettes there, and the Porsche's gonna make it too wide, but he slows down up the top of the hill, allowing me to get side by side. Got this Corvette in front. It's gonna block the outside though, as the Porsche behind now sneaks right back up and into it. Fender to fender, and just kissed the right front there with him. It's a little more aggressive than you would want to be with these types of cars, but it's certainly fun. So we may turn on the headlights here actually, just so if it gets a bit darker I can make sure I can see. See if everybody else does the same. I imagine they will. Oh, there's a hip check there from the Porsche in front, quite literally. It's got like big hips on the back with fat rear tires. Follow him through past these couple of Corvettes as they kiss again. A bit of oversteer on the way out. I can't get enough of racing these types of cars. Racing the modern Indy car is fun and all, and I love it for the modern series and all that, but I just absolutely love these classic cars with the H pattern and heel and toe and the big wheel rims and all that. Beautiful sunset here. So I got a nice run now on the Porsche in front. We'll see if we can get them down into Knickerbrook. It's a tough corner to pass in though. It's a very quick flick. Like I said, you can see why they put the chicanes in. Definitely don't blame them for that. But up the inside, down to third gear, way too deep. Making contact with the barrier there. I'll try to get out onto the track without causing much chaos as we got one of the pro cars slide on by. Lost a whole bunch of positions. I just didn't quite get on the brakes enough there. Just too busy staring at the sun, but the sun change in the sky really has thrown off any kind of braking markers. Of course, you never want to use shadows as a braking marker, and honestly couldn't tell you what my braking marker is into Knickerbrook, which is probably the issue, but just the amount of shade on the track now makes it a lot harder to see. It's cool, the change in the surface and all that. It's definitely one of the reasons that threw me out there, but we'll see if I can pick up any spots now with 5 minutes to go, all the way back in 26th out of 27. Not going to be the winner today, I would say. But pro car is now coming up from behind, so this is going to be very interesting as I've got to pass all those Corvettes again. Pretty much everybody streamed on by as I was fishing myself out of the gravel. Oh, and the clouds are all nice and pink and stuff too. It's so beautiful, this sim. It looks so good. All right, up the inside, down to second gear. Got the pro car behind, so we'll see how patient he is with me getting by this Corvette. Get it on the throttle. He's going to come by the outside. Honestly, was pretty realistic. That's a really cool car too. It's a fun one to drive. It's got an interesting history, the Pro car. I know we've got somebody right now using it in rally, which is mind-blowing to me that was a rally car as well. All right, much better through Knickerbrook this time. Actually get a line, and I'm catching a whole bunch of cars in front, but I'm not sure who's for my class position or not. So we'll see it as I get it. We have two of the slower Corvettes immediately in front. So get down to first gear. A wheel spin on exit, but get past one of them. Should get the other one here on the straight. Corvette's always good in a straight line. It's the turning where the Porsche has the edge, especially in the class. Right out to the edge of the track. Dial up the inside of this one. Coming into the first corner. There we go. It's very natural. I'm very much enjoying this. It's worked out really well. Much better than I thought it would with hacking in the ability to run 60 cars. And of course, we're not going to do probably the biggest test of this, which would be a pit stop and how that would all work. But for a fun race like this, around a track like this, I'd say it adds quite a lot to have this many cars out here. So I can only hope this is added officially so that everybody can enjoy it. And again, don't really recommend going and doing it unless you're very, very confident in that type of editing and stuff. Just because you probably can mess some stuff up if you do something wrong with it. Alright, I can see a couple Porsches up the road. So there's a little bit of smoke there as the headlights are now on and the brake lights are glowing. The only thing I'd have to add to this is some rain to really amp up the difficulty a bit more, but a huge pack of cars here. But you would definitely find some packs of cars. I think we have all three classes here racing with each other. And if you had this many cars on this track, you would definitely run into some scenarios like this during the race. Might be a little bit more patient than these guys are about to be, but we'll see if we can make the best of it here. Gotta pick the right line to go. We got one BMW, the slow BMW right in the middle. The Pro car is going next to him. Ooh, right out to the edge. There we go, past the lot. So the Pro car is coming up my left side. Trying not to run it off the grass. Almost lost the car there. All right, throttle up. We'll head towards the SO bend. Just taking all the chances, but there we go. Sneak up the inside of at least one of those Corvettes. Get past a couple Porsches. Down to second gear here. A bit more adventurous than I'd like to be, but gotta get these positions back. Sun in my eyes as we'll round this long right-hander past the first of the chicanes. And up over the top of the hill, fourth gear. I want this race to keep going, actually. We'll have to do a longer one at some point. All right, up the gearbox. Just a minute left, which I think we'll have to do an additional lap once the time runs out. We'll see, though. Got a few more of my class in front of me, so I might be able to catch them. Down to second gear here at the end of the lap. Everybody's squeezing by. Pro cars are doing quite well at getting past everybody, but I think they're outperforming everybody in nearly every place as they'll squeeze past 3-4 wide. Got a couple wheels on the grass, and the grass isn't quite as sticky as it's been on some of the other tracks. There's a few scenarios where I've had in the past where the grass in AMS2 will just rip you off the track if you touch it, but that doesn't seem to be happening here, which is great. I got past a few cars there, back up to 21st. Not sure how high I was before the crash, but getting at least a few of these positions back through the traffic. Down to first gear here behind this BMW. He's going to hold me up a bit. Throttle up. Should have gone around the outside of him probably. Alright, so the time has officially run out. Might be the last lap. We may have to do one more. We'll see once we get over the line. But yeah, no fancy anything with this. Just wanted to see if this would all work, and it works surprisingly well. I'm sure it's not as simple as just increasing the number for Ryza to release this officially, but I'm willing to sacrifice some of the reality in the pit stops and things like that if it means we can run this many cars or more at places like the Nürburgring or Spa. It's a lot of fun and something that I would love to see come to the sim for real. So Ryza, please, if you can, release something to let us run more cars, but if it's not possible, then I guess I understand. We'll come across the line there, though, but it looks like we may have one more lap here. Follow this pro car through as he's threading the needle. It'd be really fun to race in that car around here. That might be my next adventure. Oh, as we'll split these two, make space for myself between them. There we go. Third gear. This corner's so hard. It actually ran a bit deep there. Right to the edge. No! Get knocked into. Spin against the wall on the final lap. Don't want to come back out onto the track. So lose pretty much all the positions as a pro car comes up behind, and I do the ultimate rejoin as the car in front of me looking very much the same as myself. So it was looking so good there for a minute, and get to the final lap and the car is very damaged at this point as well. It's got the wheels all over the place. We try to just get it around, limp it home. I'm in dead last, and I think second to last is in front of me, so I actually might be able to pass him if I want to go for it. Pro car stuck up the inside as we'll come down to Knickerbrook. I got one coming up behind me as well. It's going to get quite busy here with a damaged Porsche. I'll head up the hill underneath the banner there. You can just see him in front. I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch up to him. The car does not feel right. Trying to get a run out. He's stuck up with these two. I'm trying to get around him, which will slow him up just a little bit. It might be a little bit too late to try to recover anything for this. Down to second gear for the final corner. Pinch off that pro car behind. Not able to get on the throttle enough though. So I'm going to come to the line and finish last, but it was all just for fun anyway. 60 cars around Alton Park. I hope this becomes something that we can do quite easily someday in AMS2, but at least for now it was a fun experience to have tonight. So hopefully this comes to the sim at some point officially, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So thank you for watching. This is GP Laps, and I'll see you all again next time.